John, Paul, George, and Ringo. 4 lads from Liverpool who would go on to form what many would call the most successful, influential, creative, and greatest bands of all time. So how did they get there from their humble beginnings playing small clubs in Hamburg, Germany? This is The Story and the Songs. I'm Eric Cohen, your curator, and I'm going to take you on the musical journey of the Beatles. While you're watching, you'd sure please me if you'd leave us your thoughts in the comments. Tell us your favorite Beatles factoid, and if you dare, your own personal top 10 for the Beatles. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. All right, enough talk. Let's get to know the men beneath the mop tops. Here's part 1, the story.
Rock band The Beatles formed in 1960 in Liverpool, England. The group originally consisted of guitarist John Lennon, Paul McCartney and George Harrison, along with bassist Stu Sutcliffe and drummer Pete Best. Much of the group's early time was spent playing shows in Hamburg, Germany. McCartney then took on bass after Sutcliffe's 1961 departure, and they began recording as a backing band. After meeting their future manager Brian Epstein, the Beatles were signed to EMI's Parlophone label by producer George Martin in 1962. That same year, Ringo Starr replaced Best during their first recording session, and the classic Beatles lineup was solidified.
Love, love me do. You know I love you.
All 4 members contributed vocals, but Lennon and McCartney's singing and songwriting partnership stood out. The group released 2 successful singles before their #1 1963 debut, Please Please Me.
Come on, 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 please, please me, oh yeah, like I please you.
And followed that with 2 more hits.
Just call on me and I'll send it along with love from me to you.
As they toured the UK in 1963, their popularity generated frenzied fan reactions dubbed Beatlemania. That year, the foursome also released the chart-topping LP with the Beatles.
Here's a little bit of info that you may not have known. Turns out Beatles concerts had a certain aroma, that of urine to be exact. Yep, I guess those girls were not only so excited that they could barely hear the band over their screaming, but they also literally wet themselves in delight.
Next came their first #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. The song and their first 1964 appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show kickstarted the British invasion in America.
Hang on. This is a song.
Shut up while he's talking.
Yes.
Screaming fans continued to pursue the band on their international tour dates in 1964. The group also starred in the successful comedy A Hard Day's Night and released a popular soundtrack. That year also saw the UK release of the #1 album, Beatles for Sale, and the US release of the chart-topping record, Beatles 65. The next year, their second film, Help, and a #1 soundtrack that featured the song Yesterday came out.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away.
The Beatles recorded the folk rock LP Rubber Soul amid growing tensions. That effort showcased the band's musical and lyrical progression and is often considered one of the greatest albums ever made.
He's a real man, sitting in his nowhere land.
In 1966, controversy arose when Lennon commented on the band's popularity.
Are you burning your Beatles records?
Yes, sir, I burn them.
You burned them all yourself?
I've already burned them.
Despite this, the band continued to crank out hits. They also topped the charts with the psychedelic rock record Revolver, and this was another triumph.
Look at all the lonely people.
Commenter Marin Linney says, when John Lennon said that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, he didn't think that they were greater than God or something. I think what he was trying to say was that at that time, on the height of Beatlemania, there were more people screaming after the Beatles than there were people screaming after Jesus.
After their final tour came the 1967 record Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The effort's successful mix of musical genres and its use of varied instruments and sounds made it one of history's most important pop albums. The Beatles' song All You Need Is Love premiered next and was followed by a meditation retreat in Bangor, Wales.
That was kind of stunning because we were off on this sort of finding the meaning of life, and there he was, dead.
Following the shocking death of Epstein, the Beatles released a successful psychedelic rock soundtrack to their poorly reviewed Magical Mystery Tour film. In 1968, the well-received animated movie Yellow Submarine
It's all in the mind.
and corresponding soundtrack were followed by the Beatles' first single on their label Apple Records. After visiting the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in India that same year,
it was a bit of a phase, but he's still a nice fella and everybody's fine, but we don't go out with him anymore.
the group released a self-titled LP commonly known as the White Album. Despite tension-filled recording sessions and Lennon's romantic fixation with Yoko Ono, the record topped the charts. Over the course of their 1969 recording sessions for the album Let It Be, the Beatles began to fall apart. During this time, they made their final live performance on the rooftop of their recording studio.
Don't let me down. Don't let me down.
Unable to resolve their issues, the Beatles put Let It Be on hold and began work on Abbey Road. They released that album later in the year, and it became one of the group's most commercially successful efforts.
Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover.
Commenter The Dark Demon Dude says, nothing on the death rumors of Paul, that was one of the biggest things in Beatles history. True or not, it doesn't matter, but the clues and winks and nudges in the songs and covers are one of the greatest things they ever did. For the rest of time, people will be looking to these songs and clues to make sense of it all. So is Paul dead or not? When I was a kid, I had an audio tape of a radio program that went through all the clues, and it was scary as shit.
Though it was recorded before Abbey Road, Let It Be was the band's final album release.
There will be an answer. Let it be.
It was finally released in 1970, along with an accompanying documentary.
I'll play, whatever you want me to play. Or I won't play at all if you don't want me to play. No, whatever it is that will please you, I'll do it.
By this point, both Lennon and McCartney had started releasing solo material.
Maybe I'm amazed at the way you love me all the time. Oh, we gotta say.
Think Disney World is the happiest place on earth? Well, not so for Beatles fans. John Lennon signed the paperwork that officially broke the band up at the Polynesian Village Hotel when he was in Florida, Christmas 1974.
Despite their subsequent breakup and the deaths of Lennon and Harrison, the band's popularity did not diminish with time. The members continued releasing solo albums, and many projects were released with and without input from the band.
Let me take you down some
Some of the most successful of these included the Beatles anthology documentary and Cirque du Soleil's theatrical production, Love. The Beatles were artistic innovators who quickly achieved massive success. With their colossal pop culture influence, it is without a doubt that their musical legacy will live on.
Thanks, Mo.
I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves, and I hope we pass the audition.
So all in all, the Beatles lineup that we know and love was only together for 10 years, but in that time they released hit album after hit album, hit single after hit single, and built a musical legacy that's hard to beat. But we wouldn't dare rate a top 10 Beatles songs, right? Wrong. From Rubber Soul and Help to Sgt. Pepper's, The White Album, and Abbey Road, WatchMojo has done the impossible and ranked our picks for the top 10 Beatles songs. Don't forget to let us know how wrong we are in the comments. Here we go, part 2, the songs.
Number 10, In My Life.
There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed.
It's partly partly thanks to George Martin that this rubber soul track has its Baroque pop feel.
Some have gone and some remain.
The producer contributed piano to this gentle but memorable number that shows a more personal side to John Lennon.
In my life, I love you more.
Arguments with Paul McCartney about who contributed what don't take away from the fact that the Beatles were able to capture a beautiful melody and showcase the band's evolving sound in just 2.5 minutes.
George Martin wrote and played the piano solo in the middle of In My Life, but couldn't play it fast enough, so they recorded it at half speed and sped it up so it sounded kind of like a harpsichord.
In my life, I love you more.
Number 9. Something.
Something in the way she moves
It doesn't get more romantic than this.
attracts me like no other lover.
With George Harrison at the helm, this gorgeous rock and pop number proved the quiet Beatle was more than just a talented guitarist.
Don't want to leave her now. You know I believe.
Fans fell so in love with Something that it topped the American charts, with Harrison's sweet vocals complemented by a string arrangement and an instrumental break. The 3-minute tune is also one of the Fab Four's most covered songs.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm
Number 8. Strawberry Fields Forever.
strawberry field.
With its psychedelic pop and rock flavors, this single was really able to bring the magic and wonder of Strawberry Fields to life.
Nothing to get hung about.
Inspired by Lennon's childhood memories, it shared the A-side with McCartney's Penny Lane and stood out for its distinctive musical structure
Strawberry fields forever.
and use of the mellotron and Indian harp. After putting in 45 hours of recording time, the band was rewarded with a top 10 smash and a Beatles classic.
Help!
Number 7. Help.
I need somebody.
As the title song to the 1965 film and its accompanying soundtrack, this folk rocker topped both the US and UK charts.
When I was younger, so much younger than today. But
While its fast pace was a fitting musical representation of the band's swift rise to fame, the single also ingrained itself into our musical consciousness through Harrison's surf rock-inspired playing, Ringo Starr's energetic drumming, and Lennon and McCartney's vocal interplay.
help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please, please help me, help me, help me. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary,
Number 6. Let It Be.
speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Mixing pop, rock, and gospel, this ballad was released just before McCartney declared he was leaving the Fab Four.
Let it be, let it be.
As such, it prominently features Macca on vocals and piano, and moved so many with its words of wisdom that it hit the top 10 of the UK and US charts.
Yeah, let it be, let it be.
As the title song to the documentary of the same name, Let It Be was also awarded with an Oscar and a Grammy.
There will be no sorrow, let it be. Let it be, let it be.
Number 5. While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Look at you all, see the love that's sleeping.
He may not have been credited for it, but it's well known that Eric Clapton lent his exquisite guitar skills to the solo on this Harrison-penned piece.
Still my guitar gently weeps.
Featured on the Beatles' self-titled double album, this bluesy hard rocker is especially striking thanks to its vocal harmonies, use of multiple guitars, and the band's musical chemistry. It's also an often cited fan favorite.
Yes, the band's chemistry is on full display here, but George Harrison actually wrote While My Guitar Gently Weeps about the disharmony plaguing the band at the time.
Number 4. I Wanna Hold Your Hand.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you something. I think you'll understand.
If it weren't for this upbeat composition, Beatlemania may never have come into existence.
I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand.
With its rocking chords, pop influences, and vocal harmonies, I Wanna Hold Your Hand caught on with music lovers so strongly that it topped both the UK and US charts.
It's such a feeling that my love I can't hide, I can't hide.
Thanks to its happy-go-lucky feel and mood, we still can't help but clap our hands and enjoy the Grammy-nominated tune today.
I wanna hold your hand.
Number 3. Yesterday.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away.
Though both Lennon and McCartney are credited as writers, this Beatles track was all McCartney.
Oh, I believe in yesterday.
In fact, he conceived of the haunting melody in a dream and then brought the acoustic guitar ballad to life by getting a string quartet to accompany him.
Something wrong now, I long for yesterday.
Thanks to its Baroque pop style and touching lyrics,
Love was such an easy game to play.
the simple but effective Yesterday topped American charts and eventually became recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as one of the most recorded songs ever.
Oh, I believe in yesterday.
Number 2. A Day in the Life.
I read the news today, oh boy.
The Beatles couldn't have crafted a more perfect closer to the groundbreaking and best-selling Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
And though the news was rather sad,
With its melding of psychedelic rock, progressive rock, and Baroque pop, its orchestral sections, and musical and lyrical contributions by Lennon and McCartney,
I saw the photograph.
A Day in the Life was an ambitious and original tour de force.
Woke up, fell out of bed, dragged a comb across my head.
As such, one of Lennon and McCartney's finest compositions also became one of the Beatles' most influential tracks.
How about this? It took 34 hours to record the song A Day in the Life. Please Please Me, the entire album, 11 hours.
And though the holes were rather small, they had to count them all. Now they know how many holes it takes to fill the album.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
I need a fix 'cause I'm gone down. For the superior junk that gone.
Baby, you can drive my car, and baby, I love you.
All the lonely people, where do they all come from? I want you. You know I want you so bad.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
It's been a hard day's night. I've been working like a dog.
Come together right now over me.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
Number 1. Hey Jude.
Song and make it better.
Crafted around McCartney's lead vocals and piano playing, this rock and pop ballad seems simple at first, but gradually becomes more elaborate as instruments like guitar and tambourine are incorporated.
Get started to make it better.
Hey Jude didn't only make history for being a 7-minute-plus British chart topper, but also for ruling radio stations and topping the American chart for 9 weeks despite its length. It's just that good. And then there's the unforgettable Na 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 and its orchestra-led conclusion.
So, how'd we do? Any surprises there? Well, we do think our commenters are right. We do need to do another Top 10 Beatles songs. If you're dying for more content from the Fab Four, check out our list of the top 10 legendary albums that were panned at release to see which Beatles album made the cut. Find out where the boys clock in on top 10 most important moments in music history and see if they came out on top on our rundown of the top 10 greatest rock bands. But we'll leave you with this burning question. What's your favorite post-Beatles song by a Beatle? Mine goes back and forth between Maybe I'm Amazed and Jealous Guy. Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks, we'll see you next time. I'm Eric Cohen, and this has been The Story in the Songs.
Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.